I'd like to open this meeting of the Trumbull Veterans First Responders Building Committee at 7 o'clock on April 15th, 2020. At this time, I'd like to have a roll call of the members. Marissa?
Okay. Ray Baldwin.
Here.
Bruce Silverstone.
Here.
Dan Sacco.
Here.
Steve Lemoyne.
Here.
Mary Beth Thornton.
Here.
Dawn Contafio.
Here.
Michael Lombardo.
Here.
And I guess Preston Merritt is not here. He won't be joining.
He may jump in, I'm not sure, but he initially said that he thought he might be headed out at this time. So, all right, the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, March 11, 2021. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Dawn. Oh, go ahead, Steve Lemoyne. I'll second Dawn Contafio.
Okay, second. Any discussion about the minutes of our March 11th meeting? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None? Okay, motion passed. All right, let's get to the heart of our meeting this evening, which is a review and approval of the design. I think we already approved the design plan. Tonight, we are to vote on the estimated cost of construction so that we can present to the town council on May 3rd. George, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you want to walk us through this, your budget estimate?
Sure. Let's see, how do I share the screen? Let's see.
Bill Chin?
Yeah, if you have the document open that you'd like to share, there you go.
Perfect.
So everyone can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
does everybody
All right.
have the hard copies?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, everybody was sent hard copies too, George.
Okay. So we broke the estimate down into the standard divisions. Those divisions follow the Connecticut Construction Institute. And this also follows the table of contents of the specifications, which go along with the construction documents, which we've written. So the first thing is the general conditions, which those general conditions on this line item are general conditions that are on site, such as the waste management, the dumpsters, the facility, and the temporary facility, the office, and so forth. So those are on-site general conditions. Some of the testing too. The next, the demolition of the structure, which is self-explanatory. Concrete work includes the foundations and the slabs. The masonry includes the fireplace and the stonework. The steel, miscellaneous steel railings and miscellaneous beams have to do with the structure and also the railing along the deck and other miscellaneous steel within the building to support some of the trusses. Wooden plastics has to do with all the lumber, the wood trusses, the roof rafters, the ceiling joists, and the wood studs to build the wall. Thermal moisture protection have to do with the roof, the damp proofing, insulation, the air barrier on the outside of the building, caulking and sealants. Doors and windows, self-evident. The finishes are all the finishes which are inside all the flooring, painting of the walls, the acoustical ceilings, the ceramic tile for the public bathrooms. Specialties have to do with all the toilet partitions, the grab bars, the hand dryers, things of that nature. The kitchen equipment we've identified that goes into the warm-up kitchen. The plumbing is also self-evident. HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Electrical, site lighting. Earthwork. Earthwork has to do with excavation and backfill for the building. Removal of the unsuitable material. Bringing in structural fill. Trench excavation for the utilities. The pavement for the parking area. Pavement for the sidewalks, landscaping, and seating. And the total hard construction cost comes up to $2.1 million.
George?
The next project cost that we've identified is the liability insurances, the construction managers, the contractor's fee, the payment and performance bond. General conditions, again, this general conditions is office general conditions, preparation of shop drawings, project manager, home office costs that are associated with the project. The construction, the contractor's fee, which is his profit, which is different than the pre-construction, and the pre-construction has to do with the bidding process. And things that happen prior to construction, mobilization, startup of the project. A state building permit fee, the town of Trumbull's permit fee, and that gives us a total project, the total project cost of that is approximately $300,000, which brings the project cost so far up to $2.4 million. In addition to that, there are owner's costs, or what we call soft costs, that are involved, which is the owner's FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And we've assigned that as a 3% of the cost, which is to buy the chairs, the tables, and flat screen TVs, the actual equipment for the internet and the software and the technology within the building. And then we've also identified a line item for a contingency of 8% for things that, you know, we maybe haven't thought of. The architects and engineering fees, which is already fixed. Topo and survey, which we've already completed, which included the property line survey, the topography, and the wetlands flagging. The geotech testing has already been completed and paid for by the town. So that's a zero line item. And then testing and special inspections, because of the type of building, an A3 use building, there is a building code requirement that the structural engineer and the architect fill out a special inspections list that needs to be done during construction and submitted to the building department. Those tests are to test the concrete, test the soil compaction, and some other tests that are involved with the building systems. Utility company charges for the UI, possibly the gas, and maybe a water charge to bring the services to the building. And that comes out to about $500,000. And that brings the total project costs up to $2.9 million.
George, I have a couple of questions. One is, as we already know, we ran into some issues with the test holes that were done for the septic system not coming back to our satisfaction. If we need to expand beyond the parking lot for septic, is there, I think you mentioned that there's a contingency for the earthwork in there?
We do have a contingency buried into the earthwork. I'm not sure whether that contingency will cover what we need to do. We haven't completed the testing. The testing that we've done so far for the building, the structural fill came out very good. It's exactly what the test boring showed. When we did the test pits, we opened them up. Our geotech engineer was there, and it's exactly what we thought. And as a matter of fact, it's probably a little bit less than what we anticipated. But we ran into a difficulty in getting an area that would be successful for the septic system. Now, that's a little more complicated, and we don't have a solution for it yet. But the things that we're considering, the holes that we did do is we went down to virgin ground, and then we went down to where the water table is, and we found that the percolation test didn't come up right. We tried one location, then the Public Works Department came out. We tried another location. We were going to do a third location, but the Public Works Department has gotten busy, so we're making other arrangements to do that testing.
Okay.
So I think that in our budget, we have sufficient dollars to cover that unforeseen. At the worst case scenario, we remove all the material under the parking lot. We bring in a design material as long as it's a sufficient height above the water table, and we have a septic system.
Okay.
That is, worst case scenario is somewhere in the $50,000 range. So it's not as if that can't be absorbed in our preliminary budget, in my judgment.
Okay.
The thing that does worry me, to be honest with you, Ray, excuse me for speaking over you, is that we are experiencing an unbelievable increase in material costs, especially in wood. And that has me very concerned that if this project doesn't go out to bid shortly, that I'm not sure we have enough in this budget to overcome that kind of escalation. I'll give you an example. Right now, 2x4, less than 30 days ago, was at about $5. That same 2x4 is at 10. Sheet of plywood, which was $32 about 45 days ago, is now selling for $62. That's a tremendous increase, and I'm hoping that that'll level off. But if the residential market continues hot as it is right now, and we wait till the fall to go out to bid, or I think that you'd have to take another look at the budget.
Yeah, but I'm hearing that from a lot of contractors. So in fact, a lot of contractors are holding up doing construction at all because of the cost has gone extraordinarily high.
Right now, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know it's just a relatively small item in the budget. The first selectman is on the call, but Vicky, Trumbull permit fees of $38,000. Any chance that those can be reduced or eliminated altogether? Vicky, you on the call? I saw you before.
Hold on, I'm here. That's something we need to discuss. Rena's also on the call.
Yeah, these are this is a municipal project.
Yeah.
My knowledge, it's a town project. We don't pay ourselves for building. I don't think that we pay building fees for a town project. We would pay like state permit fees, things like that. But we don't pay ourselves, like if I don't think so.
You know, actually, I've learned something about the build permit fees over the years, and they're predicated on a percentage. Now, if we have to reimburse the building department to come out and do inspections, I have no issue with that. We have to cover the cost of their time and so forth. But, if I don't think it's going to amount to a $38,000 expense. That was my only
Did
point.
we not waive fees for Sturt Village?
That's not a municipal project though.
No, I know, but we did waive fees there for them. I
Yeah.
know it's not, but I think we did. Did
You're
waive.
right, Vicky.
So,
Yes.
in order for us to waive any building permit fees, it has to go to the town council, and I believe that did.
Yes. Yep.
But
Okay.
that's different because that's not a municipal project. To my knowledge, and I can check this tomorrow, let me see, yeah, tomorrow, and get back to you tomorrow. I don't think that when we build a municipal town facility that we pay ourselves the fees. I don't think so. Because I
Yeah.
think you'd be borrowing just to pay yourself fees. I don't think so.
I want to support what Rena is saying, because when the fire departments have added to their buildings or changed their buildings, we've waived their fees. The council has waived their fees.
And they're a separate district. So if we're talking a town project, like if anyone can remember, like when we do the police department chief, when we're doing all of your fit out, we don't pay building permit fees like any other construction project would pay for those renovations. There'd be permit fees. I don't think we pay anything. Do you recall that, chief?
No, I do not recall. any-
Yeah, not on the municipal side, if it's a municipal building. So I
All
think,
right.
Contractors pay fees, the building fees. We put
correct,
in all our bids, they're responsible for all permit fees.
for a town project,
Yep.
so they pay, okay.
We don't pay, you're correct, but we're not, that 38,000 shouldn't be on, 38,000 is going to be on the cost of the construction of the contractor who's going to be bidding the contractor who wins it. Will pay building fees.
Okay,
Well, it's going to come out of our, he's going to build that into the budget. So
Yeah, it's gonna come out of, he's
it's going
gonna,
to come out of our pocket one way or the other.
One way or the other, you're right, Ray, 100%.
yeah, so I guess I stand corrected, we do pay them ultimately. I
Okay.
was aware of that.
Listen, I'm gonna open this up to the committee members to ask any questions they may have of George about the fees and so forth. So
Ray, Dan Sacco, I got three
yeah,
questions.
go ahead, Dan.
I got three questions I came with, and some of it we've already touched upon, so I think we're there. But the first one was, what was the time frame for this pricing? When I heard you say that, George, that this is a limited time frame, and it could be tremendously impacted if we don't move quick enough to get something done, correct?
I have no way of predicting that. I mean, I think this budget will stand for, 90 days. And then I think if the marketplace continues the way it's going, I think you're going to have to revisit it.
Okay, so you see a 90-day period where you will think. The second question was, what are we still waiting for that could drive up costs? And Ray, you mentioned soil for the septic tank type issue. Are there other things that we're waiting for that can drive these costs up big time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and the third question was, which we already touched on again, which is if we had to go reduce outlays, where would we go find those reduction of outlays? And George, you mentioned a couple of places already, and Ray, you brought up the fees. So the question would be, if the costs are going to drive up, where do we go to find some cost that we can reduce from?
No, I'm not sure how to answer that one. I didn't, you broke up at the end there.
Oh, yeah. Well, the question was, if we see increased costs coming, are there places we can go to reduce outlays that are built into this budget? And you mentioned a couple of places where you saw some sway. And so I guess that becomes important in a period of inflationary cost factors.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you do a budget like this, you take off the quantities. It's a detailed estimate. Each one of these divisions have a lot of backup and quantity takeoffs that are from them. And you do use professional judgment through experience to build in, enough safety, because the worst thing that can happen is that you don't meet the budget point. And I'm very confident that we have a set of drawings that matches this budget.
As it stands today, right? I got it.
Dan,
Yeah.
Dan, to your point, there's one of the things in here. We have, if you look, we have an owner's contingency of 8%, which is about $172,000. So if there is something that comes up that we didn't anticipate, we can look to that. That's what it's there for.
Okay.
Okay.
Just so
All right.
you know, on the bidding process now, we have bids out. Our audience, our pre-bid meeting audiences are high. Our bidding submittals, the activity is low. Not too many people engaging. So I don't know how many construction people would come out for a pre-bid meeting on this and how many would actually bid, but it's not a typical year, Dan. And they're gonna probably increase their price on the materials right now. At 3/4 sheetrock is up to $92 a sheet. So we're finding some stuff on some other bids that we have out that we have a budget, and people came out and measured and did stuff, and it's probably going to come over the budget that we have on some Board of Ed jobs. Just to let you know what's going on throughout the amounts, the other towns and our projects. We're just not getting the bidders we used to get on some. Or they might already be tied up on other jobs, but it's
Okay, are any other commissioners have some questions? I'm sure, I thought some people had questions I'd like to address to George.
Ray, Steve Lemoyne, I have a
Yeah, thank you.
question. It's just a point of clarification. Is the old structure removed and the ground is ready? Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is the old structure removed and the ground is ready?
Yes, that, we already did the testing around there. The soil is good. All we have to do is remove the building. We can construct on the site, yes.
Okay, so is the removal of that building already embedded in this budget?
Yeah, it's a second item, demolition of the existing structure, $45,000.
All right, thank you.
Dan Martin, didn't you guys use the steep grant
We will be.
for the demo of the building?
We will be. It hasn't been demoed yet. We are in contract with the state. They came up with a request prior to executing our contract that we do an additional archaeological survey of the site in order to get the contract finalized. So we're doing that, and that money will go toward the demolition of the building and other elements of the site preparation.
This is merely the budget, Dan. This is the budget we're working on. Where the money comes from is that's another subject. That's another topic. But you're right. That demolition was identified when we applied for the steep grant.
Dan Martin, again, just in my experience, the owner's contingency goes very fast. I wouldn't, bank on the fact you have 175,000. In previous programs I've been involved with, that gets eaten up very, very quickly with change orders and things that all of a sudden get discovered.
I would agree.
That's a low number, 8%.
Yeah. Okay, who else do we have? What other committee members do we have with questions?
So when will this actually go out for bid?
Well, when we get approval from when we have the money in place, that's when it would go out to bid. When we have identified a source of the construction source for the funds. We're going to get to avenues of funding for the project, but that's when it would go out, Bruce, is when we have the money in place.
So George used the number of, if we're not in the game in 90 days, then we're going to be perhaps looking at some substantial increase in cost. It would seem reasonable to make the assumption that we're not going to be there in 90 days. Would that be, you feel the same?
That's a good question. I can't say right now. We've applied for some federal grants, which Rena will get into later, which may cover the cost of this project. But you're right. Now, as George pointed out, construction costs are going up, pretty significantly. So that's going to be another discussion. You're right.
Chairman Baldwin, Mr. Estrada's had his hand up for some time.
Okay, George, you have something to add? George Estrada?
Yes, a couple things on the FF&E. Has Bill Chin been consulted on the technology package that we're looking to install here?
Yes, he's going to be. We have subcommittees broken down of this committee, and they're going to be working. I think it's maybe Bruce Silverstone and Dan Sacco will be working with Bill Chin to identify the cost for the the sound and so forth, and the links that he's going to need.
The audiovisual components, George. George, how are you?
Great, Bruce. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. So Dan and I have had a couple of brief conversations. We haven't spoken to Bill yet, but we thought this needed to move along a little further. But we do have some contacts in the field, as I'm sure Bill does, and I guess we have some question about the cost for what we're looking at, but we want to get to a point where we can go out and get an estimate so that we're not surprising anybody on the back end, as well as being able to integrate the technology into the building as it goes up and not as an afterthought.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
And my concern is just, I know that one of the most important components in the functionality of a facility like this is the sound system, that they're not inexpensive. I just want to be sure that we're carrying enough in that FF&E that's going to support.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We're on that. We know that, everybody on this call has attended a meeting where the sound system has been absolutely miserable. Well, we don't want to be in that position.
Absolutely.
As well. And we want to make sure that we have maybe not the best in technology, but some pretty good sophisticated technology. And so that's our target. And so we'll be in touch with Bill. George will plug you into it as we go forward as well.
Great. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
And George, I'd love to see more granular the breakdown on the finishes, the FF&E budget, how you arrived at the number you did, just to take a look at that. And then my final comment just is and it was expressed already. My concern on this entire project is that septic system, because that can be a substantial number if we can't arrive at a location there that's going to have the suitable soils to support a good septic system for a commercial use.
George, I'm glad you brought that up. How soon can you have some town trucks up there to help us to find a location?
I had sent something to you guys. You have a line item for that right now. Bring someone in. At this point, forget it. All bets are off from the town side. I can't keep up with what I have to do on the roads. So
George, I had to try.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
I had to try. All right. Any more committee members have comments or questions?
Ray, my hand is up. I guess you don't see the hand.
I can't see I'm sorry about that. Okay,
That's
go
all
ahead.
right. That's all right. Yeah, I'm trying to use the right hand up. Anyway, just like Mr. Estrada said, I wanted a more granular breakdown. The larger numbers like thermal and moisture protection, George Wiles did just tell us that it was the roof and the insulation. That's $250,000. So I wanted to understand more clearly what that expense is. The next one I looked at were the finishes, the floor, the ceiling, ceramic tiles. That's another $250,000. That's a big nut. And then my other question, as George Wiles explained most of the other questions I had, under soft costs, additional expenses, there's $185,000 listed there for architectural services. Are those additional architectural services? I thought we already approved the design and it's completed. Or is that something we've already paid you, George Wiles? That's my question.
Which one do you want to take first? You want to do the finishes first?
Sure.
Okay. So that would be this line item.
Right.
So how did we arrive at that number? So so that number includes all the gypsum board, all the tiling, the laminated vinyl tile, the acoustical ceilings, there's a small resilient floor area, carpet tile in the office, and all of the painting inside and out. So what skews the finishes, you think, oh, the finishes, they're spending a lot of money on the finishes, but the way the construction industry sets up, gypsum board falls into the finished section. So that's what skews that quite heavily, is that all that sheetrock is on the whole project is in the finishes. So that's the breakdown of what the finishes are. The architectural fee, which we can discuss, is that right now we have a contract for $185,000 stipulated sum. The building committee has authorized us to finish and complete, and we have 95% of the construction documents. So you've encumbered the 185 by virtue of the contract, but you've only expended about 105,000 of the 180,000. The bidding phase and the construction administration phase, you have not authorized us. Obviously, you haven't gone out to bid. If you haven't gone out to bid, there's no construction administration. So that would be your total exposure for our fee. What was the other one, Mary Beth? There was a third one.
Mary Beth?
You're on mute, Mary Beth.
Ah, sorry. I appreciate you explaining that. And yes, it was the thermal and moisture protection. I wanted a little better breakdown on that so we can all understand, because the numbers are so large, and just looking at this doesn't give us a good idea of what they represent.
Yeah, you know, it's always tough in a public forum to present a budget because it does become part of the public record. So we sort of just, as far as what ones you want to drill down on, we're happy to give that information, but some of it's got to remain proprietary because strange things happen when it goes out to public bid.
No, that's fine. Especially you're explaining about the gypsum board. None of us would know that that's included in that total cost.
Yeah.
Okay, just any other committee members have questions or
I
concerns?
think Rena has a question.
I have a
Rena?
clarification. I just exchanged with Bob Dunn, the head of our building department, regarding the fees, Ray, that you were asking about. He
Yeah.
said the only permit fees that we pay for on a municipal project is just the state education fee, which is 0.16 per $1,000 of value. So $100,000 would be a $16 fee. That's the only permit fee that gets paid on municipal projects.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Again, I'm going to run down the list here. Steve, Mary Beth, Dawn or Mike, do you have questions?
Nope, mine were answered already. Thank you, Ray.
Okay.
The questions I had were answered already.
Okay, very good. Well, that is, I would suggest, Georgia, be prepared that when we go to the council on May 3rd, that you have that breakdown, because I'm sure somebody on the council is going to ask the same question about some of the breakdown and some of the larger numbers. So, have that ready. But
okay.
Thank you very much for this. This is very good. So unless there's any other questions about the budget and design, I would ask for somebody to make a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve the budget as presented.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second, Dawn Contafio.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this budget? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Is there anybody abstaining? None. Very good. The budget passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update on state and federal grant and fundraising, and I'm going to turn it over to Rena Bacalar. Rena?
Thank you. Some of this we've already touched on. You'll remember that we did receive a steep grant. We are in the contracting process. we will get our contract. They just, the SHPO office, the State Historic Preservation Office, does a review prior to the contracts being executed, and they asked for some additional archaeological information regarding the site. It's nothing that we're worried about. It's just a process that has to be conducted, and George Wiles is working with a firm on that. So once that is completed, we'll execute our contract and we can do the demolition and the site preparation that is budgeted for that funding source. I think it was last Thursday, we submitted a federal grant request to Congressman Himes' office for $2,970,000 request for construction of the center. Now, you know, in that construction budget that we just reviewed with George Wiles, that some of those things have already been paid for that are within that bottom line, but we also know that we have other costs that are escalating. So if we were to get, and there's no certainty we'll get anything, and I'll explain that in a second, but or there's no certainty we would get the whole amount if we did, but if we got the whole amount we asked for, that would give us a little bit of extra capital for some of these items that you all just discussed that could run over. So, you know, that's a possibility. So the process now is that we filed our member-directed community project application with Congressman Himes. His office confirmed receipt of everything, told us they are going to go over and review all of their projects, and they will submit 10 projects to the Congressional Appropriation Committees. And there's no guarantee all 10 will get selected. So we want to first make the 10, and then from the 10, we want to make ours funded. So this is a process. It's very, very competitive, but I believe that we have an excellent shovel-ready project. I said this at the town council meeting, and I don't like to say this, but you know, it's a process getting something funded. Sometimes you do have to lose to win. We're not looking forward to losing. I don't want to lose, and I think we should get funded. I think we have the best project. From what I've heard, we have a very strong project, but and from what we know, but at the same time, that could happen. So there's no guarantees, but we did our best. I've also filed that same application with the Senate offices. So Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal. Their process is not as clear yet as the House process. So they are accepting applications, but they've given us no direction on how they will select or process the requests that come to them. But the important part is that they know that we've gone in on the House side, that they like the project. We want to continue to work that side of the federal delegation as well. So that's where we stand on grant applications. I think that, you know, we talked in the town council meeting, and Ray and I have talked extensively, and I'm sure you all have talked, that it wasn't a good time to do individual fundraising and corporate fundraising over the last year, given the needs for COVID and so forth. But I do think that the committee here may want to revisit a timeline for opening up that process. I mean, Bruce and his subcommittee did a great job on the development letter plan. We have, you know, we're ready to go, so to speak, but you know, we did sort of hold that off. So I don't know when the right time is for that to start, but you know, we may want to just start at least a little conversation about that. That's the end of my report. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I just want to reiterate what I put in the email, that in a very compressed period of time, Rena put together, I thought it was an outstanding application for Representative Himes and also for Murphy and Blumenthal. I thought it was very professionally and very well done, and I appreciate that. And I know the committee does too, Rena. Thank you.
Thank you for your appreciation. I appreciate your appreciation.
All right. The next item on the agenda is other business. Now, I would just want to, and Bruce touched on it a little bit, and so did George Wiles, and so did George Estrada. I think now that we have a pretty defined budget, that the subcommittees start meeting actively to start drilling down on costs and what you're going to want and need for the building. So the next meeting, I'm going to ask for reports from the subcommittees on what kind of progress you're making in your particular area. So we have some idea what costs we're looking at, and I'll stay in touch with George Wiles to see where the material costs are headed. I'm not surprised. I'm not happy, but I'm not surprised to hear what's going on in the industry there. So more to follow. Is there anybody that has any other business they would like to bring before the committee? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.